panelists. He has hilarious pranks, magic tricks that blow your mind, have to laugh, so just keep your eyes out for him at any moment. You might get a kiss or something. 2 million subscribers to his viewers who watch as he conducts surprise group hugs and gives bad advice to moms and surfers. The most popular video is mistletoe kissing prank. It will make you think twice about giving a survey around Christmas.
What happens in it?
The title explains itself pretty well. You know, drop mistletoe, see if people would kiss. They kiss.
Aww.
That's cute. That's right.
It's like you walking around kissing.
No, there's like more people. No. There was like a mistletoe. Yeah, it was cute. It was. It's cute. That's it. Go watch it.
That's awesome. So Chester might be jumping up on stage at any point. So, and maybe with a mistletoe. So that could be
Plot twist.
So let's get into it. You guys ready?
Yeah.
So YouTube is this amazing open streaming platform where you can create the content you want, really without getting permission to do it. So a question to give all the panelists is, how do you balance that? We're thinking about, you could really put anything out there, but you also have an audience behind the screen. What kind of philosophy do you think about in what you're going to put out there, knowing who's watching?
I guess for me, the philosophy I put out there is just kind of constant, because every piece of content I make, I want to make sure that it's got some sort of purpose to it, even though, you know, with the show My Drunk Kitchen, it sounds very much like it's like this totally pointless romp, which to a fair extent it is, but I always want there to be some sort of, I guess, reason why this episode is being made. But then in terms of like real responsibility to an audience, just making sure that I'm not doing anything that I wouldn't be proud to have live on the internet forever. I think that's a pretty good gauge for me personally. I can expand on that.
Yeah, let me just add a little bit to that whole thing. I learned early on that whatever content you create, whether it be super positive, super bad, all that content can exist on YouTube. You just can't all of a sudden go from super good to super bad, or it's going to completely alienate your audience and make a lot of parents mad. So I've kind of seen both sides of the spectrum, or have something really positive, and I wanted to try something that was super off the wall, and then it kind of hurt my audience. So I think it's a learning process, but we have to be mindful of our audience, because you guys contribute so much to what we're doing, and it can offend people. We have to have people know ahead of time they're just going to potentially do something like that.
Yeah. And I've seen that it's important to make sure I'm actually responsible to who I am as a person, because you can't let your audience actually like control and dictate what you want to do. Because if you live by those standards of like what your audience wants, you'll forget who you are. So you gotta make sure like you know who you are as a person, what you stand for, and then make sure you're putting out stuff that's in line with that.
Well, also like, I think the question is, it's about responsibility to your audience in like the greater sense of like responsible for their well-being. Obviously, like there's a lot, a very strong like younger adult demographic online, and kind of how we are kind of inherent role models just because we're like public figures, and I think the question is whether or not you choose to embrace that or you choose to ignore that, or like kind of just be like, no, it's fine, I'm going to do whatever it is that I want to do on the internet, and not accept the fact that yes, you are a role model, that is your life now. So.
And is that something you realized right away, or is it something you learned over time, like, oh wow, I have some responsibility here?
I think I'm super biased because I have a younger sister. So it's like, I think that, like having a younger sibling and seeing how they're influenced by like their heroes and their idols, et cetera, I personally feel like it is important that we pay attention to that. I don't feel like it's a pressure I need to put on like any other, creators in the space, because everybody's in charge of living their own life. And the way I choose to live my life is to be aware of the fact that, you do have an influence. That's why we're social influencers. And once you accept that power, you have to accept the responsibility.
And to add to that, kind of in a different look to that whole thing. I also realized like our voice, it affects the things people buy as far as when we do endorsements or sponsorships. Like if I say buy this, people are going to go out and buy that, and then I can never endorse something that I'm not proud of and won't represent myself. So I feel that's also another responsibility that we have, that the things that we say and do and say this is good, that we have to take accountability. These people actually will go out potentially and buy that. And we've had several companies come to us and we'll turn down those things because it's like, I don't believe in that, so I can't expect my audience to believe in that. So that's another responsibility I feel we have as content creators, to make sure we stay true to what we do believe in.
Yeah, it's kind of funny when you're doing like interactions with brands, which I've learned a lot about over the years. You know, you ask questions about their products, and you can tell kind of right away whether or not it's a brand that's going to work well with you. So they are like, oh, thanks for asking. Here's some answers to how our service works. They're like, great. Or they're like, oh, okay. If you really want to know. And you're like, yes, you're asking me to sell this?
Well, talking about brands, they are becoming more present, secretly or very much in their face in YouTube videos. What helps you make decisions about a company that you would want to put as part of your channel as it relates to maybe thinking about who would consume that later on?
I guess it's like whether or not I use it or ingest it or it promotes like a message that like I abide by. Like earlier this year I did a deal with Coca-Cola, and they had a campaign called Make It Happy, which is about stopping like internet bullying. And so I can subscribe to that. I do believe in making the internet a happier, better, safer place. You know, so it has to be something that, like, you know, Devin was saying, that you actually use or believe in.
Devin, you mentioned earlier, obviously the first video you upload to YouTube and then you make hundreds more. You could choose to delete those old ones, right? But there could be regret in past videos that you've made. But do you have a specific example or a funny story?
Yes, so, funny story, maybe funny story, I don't know. I did a video about a year ago. Most of our stuff is very, I would say, PG, super Disney friendly is kind of how I look at our content. And a company came to us and it was a video game that I really loved, because I'm a gamer, and shout out to all the gamers out there. But the content was a game that I was stoked on, so I was like, I'm going to go ahead and do this. And I did it, but it was a very bloody video game. And going back to being kind of very Disney friendly, I put that content out, and people always expect very super family friendly content. And this I felt was so extreme, but it was pretty extreme for our channel. And all of a sudden, I started getting all these messages from mothers saying how disappointed they were in me because all their kids would watch my videos, and then they were watching, and all of a sudden, someone's pulling a knife and slitting the guy's neck. Like, you don't do that kind of stuff. So all of a sudden, I felt awful, and I was like, do I take that out? But I'm under contract, and the videos sell up there. I'm not going to say what it is. If you guys want to check, you can. You'll figure it out. But it's very hard, but I regretted doing that because I realized the power that we have and how we have to be accountable for what we do. And I still like that kind of content, but for my audience specifically, it's too much to kind of throw them for a loop. So that was one thing I regretted doing, but I learned from that, and I haven't done anything within that realm since then. But and I don't say I had to give up who I am. I just have to learn kind of from my audience and kind of discover myself in that process. So it's been a very awesome process for me.
Stuart, what are you? Any regrets? Mom's reaching out to you.
No, not really, but I have, it took me about a year for doing YouTube to realize, so I got thrown into YouTube. My life changed overnight. I had a video that went viral, and then all of a sudden I was getting subscribers and views. And so, like, a few months before doing YouTube full job, I was a porta potty cleaner. So like my life drastically changed. And so it took me about a year to realize the impact that I was actually having on society. Instead of just before you post a video and cool, whatever. But now if I was posting, I was not only like, getting a lot of views, but I was inspiring people to go do things. I was like starting trends, starting like new social norms and things. And so it's like, wow, like, now, as much as I don't want to admit, like, I am making an impact on society. And so it took me about a year to realize that. I was like, okay, and kind of like Anna said, like, well, use Spider-Man, Peter, Ben, events, as you quoted. But yeah, with great power comes like a great responsibility, and it's true. I had to realize, like, okay, if I have a big audience, I can either change my audience. What audience do I want? Do I want an audience that wants like really crazy things, or do I want an audience that I can, like, who do I want to please? And so it took me a while. I was like, okay, I want to use my channel for good and influence people to do good things.
So you guys pass the test. You obviously feel very responsible to your audience, which is what they're understanding.
So.
But there's YouTubers, content creators, producers, new media professionals that maybe don't subscribe to them. So what would kind of be your argument of why there needs to be this more ethical presence in content creation?
You know, it's so tricky because like you can't tell people. One of the many life lessons I've learned is that you can't tell people how to live their lives. You can, have conversations about it. You can ask them questions. You can voice your opinion, but you cannot be like, you have to do this. You need to do this. If this is how, if you say you care, then you have to do this to show that you care. You can't do that. So I think that the best thing you can do is like try and be a good example. A lot of like the origin of this panel came from a conversation Chester and I were having, where he brought up, he was like, do you ever consider putting in your down bar, like in your description, like drink responsibly? Something like that, like drink in moderation, in all the videos. And I thought about it and I was like, I don't know, because I feel like if you put it there, it's kind of like, when alcohol brands want to try and work with like us and do My Drunk Kitchen, it's really hard because they don't want. Alcohol makes you sexy and cool and smart, right? That's what they want to promote. And they write drink responsibly. It's just like, it kind of feels like the way people sell cigarettes, or they used to back in the day. Anyway, long story short, I guess that my main method is just to just be honest and just try and live honestly. And I think that's the best way you can influence people, to maybe try and have them grow and be the person they want to be, but now you can't wag the finger at people because then it's just going to drive a wedge between you and them. I don't know, what do you guys think? Like other content creators, like those pranksters. Like sometimes you'll see a prank video where some guy, I watched this guy who was doing push-ups on a dam, and literally on a dam, he had his arms here, and then the dam. You're like, and I was like, that is
Watch your language.
That's so ridiculous.
Yeah, what do we think about that?
Yeah.
I would never do that. It's not responsible to a younger audience.
Yeah, I can add to that. So we do extreme sports stuff on our channel. So it's pushing the limits of people hanging out on the dam. It's very dangerous stuff. It's Chester and
Is this the responsibility?
It's the responsibility of being on time now?
Yeah. I'm not very good at it. What did you guys talk about?
Right now he's about to talk about extreme sports, because he does extreme
So
sports.
listen up, take notes. So one of the stunts that we do is a 250-foot rope swing that we do through a gigantic arch. And we did that, and that video went viral. I got around 24 million views, and then all of a sudden, all the people that saw that video started going to the same spot and doing that. They recreated. Finally, someone went there and they didn't measure the rope, and they jumped, and they didn't survive. So you can imagine how I felt as far as I was one that did the original stunt, and this was I'm not trying to make it too dramatic, but this was a year and a half later, and when they did the news story, they showed the video, and they said this is what inspired him, and I saw that, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what have I done? And then I went to his Facebook page, because I was kind of curious who this person was, and the last thing that he did was he liked my fan page, so I was like, oh no. So this is showing the opposite side of things. So I've had two incidents of two videos I've done where people have recreated and it hasn't ended up in their favor, and it's been super heartbreaking. But after those experiences, with that being said, I started to think, and I was like, I get so many emails of people. I've got one email that says, a guy from Morocco saying, I was going to commit suicide. I pulled the gun to my head, and I was like, but then I decided not to pull that trigger because I remembered your videos and all the things that they stood for and all the things that I've been missing out in my life. So on the opposite side of things, I feel that our videos also inspire people to go outside, to live their lives, make the best out of that. I feel like accidents can happen. I mean, they're already aware of how dangerous those things are. We say, like, in behind the scenes how dangerous they are. You need to be doing it professionally. And I mean, there's so many movies out there. You constantly see me seeing videos and all these other things. Like, that's going to inspire people to go out and do dangerous things. But I have to look at the opposite side as far as we're also inspiring people to go out there and live. And I mean, not that that justifies it, but I do feel that I can justify it, that I do more good with what I create than making the world a worse place.
Yeah.
And one thing I've seen is, so sometimes you think, oh, well, now I just need to stop doing everything. For example, Devin could be like, well, I'm just going to stop making extreme videos. But I think knowing that you have a younger audience doesn't mean you need to quit doing the things that you like to do. You just need to be aware that you have a younger audience so that you can be explaining to them, like, okay, a younger audience is going to watch this. I need to explain and be a teacher, almost as saying, hey, this is what I'm doing, but so you know this is a dangerous activity. You need to make sure you explain those things. But you shouldn't stop doing what you love. You know, just need to be a little bit more of a teacher.
And just going back to what I said before, like, I researched too, like, the person that did it, they were all super drunk, so they weren't even aware of what they were doing to begin with. So there was always, I mean, there's always things to back it up and whatnot, but it is a learning experience, I feel, for all of us. And we don't even realize when we started what the influence we had, but it definitely is an influence. And it's the same influence that all you guys have as far as just being an example, just normal everyday people. So we all have something that we can contribute to society regardless.
So, just, can I ask you, like, when you see other people that do, like, extreme sports videos or videos that are, you know, like, and you see the way that maybe, do you ever see people that are portraying it in a way that you think is irresponsible? Like, they're not saying, like, how dangerous it is, or they go through, and since you do extreme sports, you're like, whoa, that's a crazy stunt. They should really, like, have said, don't try this at home or whatever. Like, do you ever see that?
I personally never see that. Like, I just remember seeing so many wingsuiting videos, and a famous wingsuiter just died 2 days ago, and his whole life was go out there and do it, and it was like he doesn't regret, like he even had things before that saying, he was doing a documentary about how dangerous it actually was, though. So I feel there's stuff like that.
So, like, within the extreme sports community, there's an understanding of, we all know this is dangerous. Like, you never see, irresponsible extreme sports channels that have become incredibly popular, and you're like, oh, that kid's doing it wrong.
For sure.
Chester,
Yeah.
you've been around YouTube a while,
Yeah.
so you've learned lessons and picked up some tricks of the trade. Has there ever been a time where someone's reached out to you with concerns or needing guidance? What's kind of helped you? Because you could get tons of comments of kids going through all kinds of stuff. So how do you approach it?
First of all, this panel was really important to me, even though I'm late to it. Because I think that there's this confusion within our community. I get the messages about someone saying that I saved a life. You know, we get a lot of those, and I see those. I don't see the negative effect I create, sometimes indirectly. And that's the part that I wanted to start to question, because on top of just the amount of eyes that are on us, we actually become influential, right? So Kate and Jenner kind of pointed this out the other night at the Essence. There is, it's really just rewording the Spider-Man quote, but there's so much responsibility you have. He did the best way. I mean, I don't think the best way. But, and I know, you know, Hannah and I, we actually had a conversation. Hannah was the one that actually started this panel. We had a conversation in Vancouver, and we were talking specifically about alcohol. And so, you know, not only do, you know, am I concerned, because I had some videos where I drink on my channel, and I never comment It's just fun. I'm portraying it as fun. But I'm 32, and I've had it's a different thing for me. And I started questioning whether or not I could actually see the negative effects that I might be putting out in the world. And if I could, would I change the way that I'm doing things on my channel as an influencer? So if someone would say, you saved my life because of your videos, I feel it, I see it, they tell me. But no one tells me that, hey, I'm 14 and I started drinking at an earlier age because of you. No one tells me, hey, it could be way more extreme than that, and so that doesn't come to my front door. I'm saying that as a community, what I'm putting out into our world is that I think that I just was really, I'm sorry, I don't want to go on too long, but I just started this really, really amazing research paper on specifically alcoholism and clinical research on it, and they did a really great job making it, controlling the variables and whatnot, and getting a good understanding of how we're perceiving alcohol and alcoholism online, binge drinking. And it turned out 79% of the videos that involved alcohol, binge drinking, had humor juxtaposed to the drinking. It's so much more common in our world because we are only going to choose to do it that way, to make it seem like a fun thing, where this is the first time ever, because of the internet, that's happening. Before, it's more common that we use binge drinking as a device for something negative. Binge drinking means someone gets into a fight in a TV show. Binge drinking means there's a regret. Binge drinking means rape. For the most part, it's more common to use it as a device in storytelling that way. But in our community, it's used as a game. It's used as a challenge. And it's starting to outweigh this sort of concept that alcohol can be a very dangerous thing, and we need to be more responsible. So what I'm proposing is that we start as the influencers, the one that actually do have some power in this community. Figure out, and you need to start, it's like a disclaimer. If you're going to binge drink on your channel, it starts with a disclaimer. Something to start outweighing this positive thing that we're creating around alcohol.
I think that this is kind of now effectively, now we're just in the discussion we're having in Vancouver, which is that, how do you influence other influencers? I can do my drunk kitchen the way I do it and know that the message I'm giving out isn't, know that I'm, promoting it in the most positive, realistic way that I can. It's in no way an endorsement of alcoholism, et cetera, et cetera. We talk about lots of stuff. But when you watch, Sawyer Hartman and whatever do, a binge drinking challenge video, how do I go up to Sawyer Hartman and I'm like, maybe we should talk about getting an Uber ride home later on in the video or something like that?
I think you do it just like that. I think you just do it. Here's the thing is, you just did it by creating this panel. I think that's great. It's so funny. For a year, I wanted to make a video about this, and I'd been scared to because I felt like I was throwing a lot of my friends under the bus. And I had a private conversation with you and Grace and Mamrie, and there's a lot of people in our community that do binge drink on their channels, and so I've been nervous. I don't want to make it seem like I'm just judging and pointing my finger. I was actually in a weird way grateful that I have had drinks on my channel, so I can feel like, hey, I'm also pointing at me. But I think we're doing it right now. I think that's, and I think that when it's explained correctly and said, and we have more of these conversations, I have faith in our community. I think that the leaders and the bigger influencers in our community, we want to do the right thing. I think that things happen so fast. We just became influencers. At first, it was I'm putting this up. I told put it to the name. I was like, at first you're creating content, you're pointing the camera and you're saying, drink every time I do this. But over time, if I tell you, well, now you have 300,000 14-year-olds who are watching. If they're physically in a room, would you point to them and say, every time I do this, you drink? And the answer is no. But you're essentially doing it through the internet. So we just have to be accountable for that now. We just have to call ourselves out and say, look, I know my audience is underage. I know that because when I do a tour, I book an all-ages venue. I'm not doing that. I'm doing that because I know you're underage, right? So if I know this and I have a feeling that there is a responsibility. Why wouldn't I want to go to the swim?
So let's open this up beyond just the content, the videos that you produce. Let's say even you create G content, but then what you post on Instagram, on Vine, or Snapchat isn't related to that message, isn't responsible. Where's the responsibility there?
With anything you do?
Social media, how you're using it.
I'm speaking generally. I'm speaking generally. I mean, because YouTube at this point, sorry YouTube, but it's just one of a bigger thing. I mean, everyone's now just building brands on whatever platform you use. And, I'm talking about now that people have been deemed influencers, or our industry is literally calling us influencers now. We're getting invited to the White House to talk to the president because we're influencers. And this is, when I was at the White House, I didn't get to meet POTUS. But I did get to have a conversation with Vice President Biden, who was so charming. And that was one of the points brought up. They're aware that there is this new group of individuals from the internet that the conversion is very different. Like, I'm a huge Tom Cruise fan, but at the same time, if Tom Cruise tells me to buy a shirt, I'm like, stop it. He don't care. You know, like, he tells me that he doesn't influence me though. I just want to see him.
So the thing with YouTube is that you're able to push content that maybe TV wouldn't pick up or traditional media. And so, especially there's a lot of competition to get views. So sometimes I think that's why people do put out controversial content. So it's finding it.
I will say the most controversial, I thought, piece of content that I ever put out was Getting High with Sarah Silverman and cooking. It was called, like, what was it called? My Stone Kitchen, My High Kitchen, something like that. And, you know, we're both, like, medical marijuana certified in California, blah, blah, blah. Everything was completely 100% legal. I didn't monetize the video because I was like, whatever. And there was an opportunity to work with Sarah Silverman, who's an incredible, amazing comedian who doesn't drink. Because alcohol makes you sick. She has had bad experiences with alcohol. She's like, I want to work with you, but I don't want to do my drunk kitchen. Can we do my high kitchen? And I was like, yes. And we drank water, we did yoga, we ate vegetables, and I went home. And like, you know, people are going to use and abuse substances. People can use and abuse anything. They really can. You can use and abuse helium, you know? So I think that the responsibility is not just about the act, not just about the substance, not just about the item. That's a very, like, Puritan way of looking at it. That's a very, let's ban firewater way of looking at it. It's a more holistic image than that. And so to answer your question about Vine and Snapchats and the holistic image of Hannah Hart, the whole image of me is that sometimes I'll make an ass of myself on the internet. But the majority of the time, I'm not. And this is the person I am. But it's okay to see me in my flawed self because I am proud of my flaws and I'm proud of my good attributes. And I think my good attributes outweigh my bad ones. That doesn't mean the bad ones don't exist. Like, honesty is like, that's our real responsibility, in my opinion.
Viewers come for it, they want to see real people, whereas on TV, they might not get them.
Tom Cruise?
Devin, Stuart, do you guys feel like there should be a code of ethics for content creators? We could create one right now. What would it be?
I mean, no, I was just going to say, I know what's so great about YouTube, and I feel the way it's always going to be as far as all social media, is people are going to be true to who they are, and that's what I want to see. I don't want someone to say who likes getting drunk in their kitchen to stop doing that, because that's who they are, which is good, nothing against that. But that's also what their audience expects, so they know if they're going to see Hannah, they know what they're going to get. Same thing for me, if all of a sudden I started getting drunk on our shoot, it's not going to work for our videos. So I think we know our audience. I think all content, for the most part, know their audience. They know who they're reaching. I know for us, like, it's 15-year-old males. Like, that's who we're reaching. So I have to be aware of that. So it's my responsibility to stay true, and they know what they're expecting.
But you're talking about responsibility to being good, like, or gathering more of an audience, making your audience happy. I'm talking about the responsibility of being an adult, being an influencer, and knowing that you're affecting people. there's a difference between those two things. Like, yeah, I love the fact that we're honest. I love the fact that people gravitate toward honesty. You know, of course, but this panel is about the responsibility that we have now as influencers, that we become influencers through honesty is fine. I agree. But how responsible should we be? That's the question. Because now that we are controlling the behavior of human beings, it's on us to start questioning how we present things. Because no one's going to make us do it.
I think that like it goes both ways. Like when you become an influencer, you kind of have this incredible opportunity to become a better person for a great reason. You know what I mean? Like to become the best version of yourself because so many people are holding you accountable. But yeah, no, I think what you were saying about audience makes a lot of sense. Like if you suddenly started like, my drunk stunts. Horrible.
I was just thought, you know, in television and movies, they have the rating system, you know, like rated R, PG-13, and that was a way of being responsible to like younger audiences. That's like the movie industry. But on YouTube, there isn't. Anybody can watch. So maybe there's content out there that's PG-13 or rated R, but it's open to anybody because it's YouTube. And so, I don't know, like, I think it's important for me to be who I am and be responsible, but a lot of that comes down to parenting, I think. I think parents, like, I can't be responsible for, I mean, I can do my best, but I think parents have a big influence in teaching their kids what's good to watch and what's bad. And as an influencer, I can voice my opinion and be like, hey, like, this is bad. You shouldn't be watching me if you're under this age. But that's kind of, I mean, they have the choice. So I think it kind of comes down to parenting and each individual person's agency of what they're going to watch. So I can't help but still
I can't help but still say, like, yes, I agree. Mm-hmm. Parents should definitely raise their children correctly in a good way. I'm saying, how much responsibility do we need to take now that we're influencers? I agree to everything that Denise says. I feel like I'm actually, I care about this because I've like not been able to speak up about it out of fear of making people feel bad. Because I know that people are like, no. Yeah. And hey, I'm going to call out right now. A lot of people are like, I don't want to do that. That might affect my income. I don't want to do that. I don't know if my fans will like that. Yeah. I'm saying, well, too bad. We have to change. We have to do something. Because we're not optimal right now. We're not putting out the greatest messages. And we are the only people responsible. You're talking about ratings and things like that. Yeah, there's networks that make sure that they only get seen drinking in a TV show X amount of times. You can't be under the age of 25 in a commercial for alcohol for reasons. They don't want you to think of underage drinking. It's controlled. But we are the CEO down to the actor on our channels. So we are the only ones. We have to determine what we're going to do about that here. Each person. So that's why I want us as a community to start talking about it. So we can start saying, look, dangerous stunts, we should, and no one's going to make you, but we should as a community say, well, maybe right before you start, you do a 5-second explanation of why it's dangerous. Drinking, binge drinking. There's a 5-second, hey, before we start, it's something like that. I don't know what the actual answer is, but I know that we need to make some sort of change.
Well, I think that if that's the case, then then you realize who's your audience, and then if you really want to follow that, and we're like, okay, my audience is 13-year-old kids, then I can't be putting out content that's contrary to that, because if that's your audience, then that's the only way you could stop. I don't know. I'm learning just as much being on this panel as anyone else, so I love it too. I just think, hey, it's tough because you do realize you make an effect, and I love what you said, Chester, because it's true. You hear all about the good stories, but nobody ever comes up to you and says, oh, well, I started doing this and all these bad things and got addicted to certain things because I started watching your videos and it slowly got me addicted to these things. You never hear that stuff. And so I think, my personal opinion is I can just do my best to make sure I'm really putting out inspiring content that does the positive outweighs the bad. That's my.
And just to add to that, I also feel this responsibility is also on the viewer. And when I say that, it's like we read your comments. I see your comments on YouTube, on Instagram, on social media. Like, you guys also have the power for us to be aware of this problem. So you just say, hey, Devin, like, I did this and I got hurt, or Devin, like, this isn't good. Like I said with that mom that was brave enough to write me that email saying, like, my kids can't watch this anymore. Like, that affected the content that I created. So I feel that it's a mutual thing, that we're in it together, we succeed together, the content comes out because of you guys. But if also the viewer isn't willing to also share that negative opinion as far as this is affecting me, this is what it's doing, there can't be as drastic of a change. But I mean, we're here, we're aware of it right now. And then as you guys, for all the other content creators that you listen to and watch, like, it's up to you guys as well to also let them know in the comments how it's affecting you guys for the negative as well as the positive.
As hard as it is to tell someone what they're doing wrong and then to take that criticism, maybe you don't have to do it publicly and like on a comment as well, but maybe sending a personal message and be like, hey, I just was a little weird. And I listen. If you, as content creators, if we take those in with an open heart and an open mind, we'll know if we need to change something.
Yes, I have complete faith that we will actually decide on something together as a community and just be more responsible for the content we're putting out there and the message that it actually has. But this is the start of a great conversation. I think it starts here, and we just continue to bring it up and see where that goes. It's not an overnight thing for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I think it starts something that we don't need to sign the Declaration of Content Creation today, but I think it is important that this conversation is started, because I've noticed in all types of media, not just YouTube, but music and even just television and movies, that a lot of icky stuff is just leaking through the cracks, you know. And I think it is our duty to make sure that it doesn't keep coming in. You know, we're going to ruin the human nature.
It's very strange. The only rating system that we do have on YouTube is like, you have to be over 18 to see like any form of nudity, but you can watch all the violence you want. Like, that dichotomy between like sex and violence aren't like in our society is just so backwards, crazy. But just something you spoke to earlier, I completely agree that we should have a difference between a drinking show and an all ages show. I think that, you know, I mean, I wish the drinking age in America was 18 like every other reasonable country, whatever. It's a bigger issue, you know, but I do fully believe that you should separate out, you know, we were talking about doing a different type of tour where I had an idea for a tour that would revolve around drinking, and I thought, okay, well, if I did that, that would be like the 21 Plus show, but then during the day, like, should we go to a yogurt, like a frozen yogurt place where people like this are? Because, yeah, they should be separate. I totally agree.
So I have one more question, and then I'll turn over to some audience questions, so get those brains thinking. So some of you do produce kind of controversial or high-impact content, but you also do some service and philanthropy and things to balance it, to also show this well-rounded whole. I'm looking at you, Hannah. Or if anyone else wants to talk about, like, how do you show this other side of, like, let's be really good human beings out there. I do much more than this content. Do you guys want to share?
I am merely the idea. What we do in the HART sexual community is we do something called Have a Heart Day, which stems from a tour in 2013 that I went on, where we went to 22 cities across America, 22 food banks across America for our meetups. It was the best. It was the most awesome experience because it gave me a chance to actually spend multiple hours with people, which I totally loved. The best part of what came out of that tour was the fact that Have a Heart Day went on without me, and that certain people in those areas continued to volunteer even though I had left. And so Have a Heart Day has grown to be this incredible thing in like 6 countries, like 30 cities, and eight countries. That's our head coordinator right there, Alan. Yeah, good job. If you guys want to get involved in Have a Heart Day, let us know. 8 countries, we have monthly events. It's this huge, living, thriving thing that exists entirely outside of me. So I'm doing I'm working and do my thing. I try and go to events. I would love to go to events all the time. And so I can't take credit for it, but I'm so proud of it. So Have a Heart Day is great. So that's what I do. What was your question? I feel like I just went off on why I love Have a Heart Day.
You did.
I try and make sure I'm giving back as well. Just using, I try and make sure the person I'm portraying on YouTube is the same person I am in real life, right?
Yeah.
And so I'll try and I'll just serve people, try and be happy. I also look for opportunities to serve those in need. I had the opportunity to go to a children's cancer camp. It was one. And I just went and did magic. I didn't make anything big of it. I just kind of went and did it. And so I think just staying a good person, because people love us, you know? I mean, that's why you guys are here, and it's hard to grasp that sometimes, that we have fans, and that you can make someone's day just by saying hi to them. And so I think just being aware of that and not being selfish.
So it's just the simple things of
Yeah.
recognizing that there can be, to the big things like Chester's challenging about as an industry, how as influencers, content creators need to challenge fellow content creators as well. Cool. All right.
Taylor Swift is really good at doing stuff like that.
She's so great.
I know she's a high-profile celebrity, and there's probably other people that do just as good. Yeah, like there's probably someone in this room that does just as more like influential things than Taylor Swift, but it's just cool to see Taylor Swift. She's really good at just being a good person.
Sometimes I feel like I struggle with not wanting to do something so public because I'm worried about it coming off as if my intentions are in the wrong place. And I always resort back to, well, even if my intentions aren't in the right place, let's say I'm doing something good or putting out a good message because I think it's going to make people think I'm good, it's still better to do that than not. I agree. But I just couldn't help that.
That's tough, man. Yeah, I think you have to check your intentions. Because I think
What's not good?
to do something that's good, even though you're not doing it from a good place, that's
No, I
sounds like...
disagree. I'm saying this. I think a lot of people, I think it's more common. If I don't start, actually, I had a really good conversation with my buddy Frankie. I hope he's okay with me saying this, but he started going to school, and at first he was like, he said he was doing it because Madonna was doing it. Is that the right intention to build a school?
Sure.
Maybe not. That's exactly what you're saying. You're saying that's not the right place for what? But then once he went there, he saw what he was doing, and then he continued doing things like this because he knew that it was really helpful. So yeah, if my intention is not to actually help, it's because of something else. At the end of the day, I'm still doing good. It's my point, and that we should. I think more people feel that than you. I think that's a common feeling. It's like I don't want to do a story of me like doing acts of kindness all the time because it just comes off like I'm that guy instead of trying to like look like I'm doing good things. I've had this conversation before. It's one of those you want to do, and it's, we're so affected by judgment, even though we wish we weren't. Anyway.
All right, if you guys have questions, you can pop to the middle. There is a microphone. We got a few minutes. And hey, it'd be cool if we should balance topics. That'd be really awesome. Just a balance topic. Even though I'm sure they'll fill with other questions.
Oh,
Yeah, we got 10 or something.
Yeah? Go for it.
Hi, my name's David. I'm a dad, and question for the panel is, are any of you parents? That's question number one. And then question number two, do you think you all have a responsibility at different break points for kids, like age 12, 16? Just curious about both those questions. Thank you.
I'm not a parent. I worked at an elementary school though, and I had to work with like little kids, and they would always be like, "Mr. Stewart, are you married?" I'm like, "No." Yeah, that means you don't have a life. Like that means you can't have a house or a job. This little 6-year-old girl was like, "I don't think that's true." She's like, "It's true. I know all about human nature." Girls have it figured out when they're very little kids. So. Well, I do believe that I have an impact at certain ages. I love talking on YouTube, but I love visiting like schools and colleges because it's cool to connect with people. So I do believe that I do have an impact, but it's sometimes easier to see that when you can see the person face to face.
I don't think any of us are parents.
I hope not.
Let's talk about responsibility.
Was that a diss on all of us, or saying that you're not? I hope not.
Well, I mean, I hope I'm not.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Amelia. I actually am a parent. She's only one though, so she's not watching YouTube yet.
Not yet.
So I create content for a NASA project called Nexus, which is looking for habitable exoplanets. But my question with that is, I want to.
Wait, does that know something we don't?
What do you do with exoplanets?
Habitable exoplanets, like so. With
Oh, where you
places you can live.
where you what's it called?
So NASA's working on finding somewhere else you can live.
Yeah.
I think we should open a discussion.
Like global warming, global. Too late. All right.
My question is, how do you walk that line of, making content that you like, that you're interested in, and that gets you excited, versus something that may not be appropriate for your audience? Do you at that point make a second channel? Is that ever an option? Or do you feel like maybe that your younger audience can still watch that other channel that you created for the older content?
See, this is the thing. I think that's why this panel exists. We don't, for the most part, and I think I can say this fairly, confidently. Generally speaking, no one does that, and I don't think that we have to do that. I don't know the answer. Again, I have no idea. But one thing I am proposing is that maybe there's a disclaimer. I don't know the answer. I don't see anyone thinking they're going to start splitting up channels for different age groups, though. I think the responsibility is just on making sure the message is clear, because we make all kinds of content, and it is how it works online. You put it out there, and anyone can see it. So, but now that we are influential, we should just make sure that whatever we put out there is put out there responsibly.
Yeah, and I had a thought, but you can put age restrictions on videos, and so if you feel like something isn't appropriate, and that just comes down to you, because if you feel like something isn't appropriate for your audience, you could put an age restriction on it.
That's a filter, but I think that's not nearly a filter as a message coming from you.
Yeah, and so like that, you can either make a message at the beginning, say, hey, if you're underage, don't watch this, or you can try and put an age, but really.
But here's my only thing, guys, is that if you get the kids to think you're cool, then you can sneak in an Earth Day video. Oh no, I'm cool with the disclaimer. Filters, because then they would never, at like 17 or that's what I do. I'm always worried about if I had my druthers, it'd be one preachy video with this weekend thinks about this.
Would watch.
Yeah. You can either stop making the content, stop completely, do a thing at the beginning, go to the person's house and be like, stop. At a certain point, it's left up to you to decide if you're going to watch it or not.
And regardless, just to add to that, for any content creator, I feel you should always make the content you want to make. It's just figuring out how to make that content for the audience that is going to be inappropriate or whatnot. But even for you, saying you're a content creator, make it fun for you. But if you're not going to succeed if you don't love what you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you. Do you mind if I just high five you guys? This panel is awesome.
Exoplanet, take me with it.
So, that's a good one.
Hi guys. Hi. My name is Bria. I am not a parent. As a creator, do you guys, I guess here's that question, how do you guys discover what age group is watching your content? And did you go to creating your content with a certain age group in mind, and then that different?
I find out through grammar.
What is the level of
education?
No, I mean,
We got demographic info on the back of every channel, so like I
YouTube
know.
Creator Studio, you guys should all get it. It's great. Yeah.
90+% of anyone that has been deemed YouTuber has looked at their analytics like more than we should.
But and then your second question for like making content for a demographic specifically, I'm all about not making content for like a gender or a demographic or anything like that. I think you should just make like the content. The best content's going to be you making content for you, in my opinion. That's my best version of content.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Agreed. Hannah.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting though because YouTube, as more and more people grow, as YouTube grows as a platform and more and more people know about it, I'm really excited because I feel like YouTube is aging up. Because I've always viewed kind of older, like I've always had like 17 to 34 on YouTube, which the majority of YouTube is like 13, like everybody always says 13, 13, 13. But I'm really excited that as YouTube kind of becomes more mainstream, more adults get to join in on this great place that we all have.
I said becomes, it already is.
No, I know.
That's so 2014. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sam. As a graphic art major, I just had a question about, like, you guys would probably all categorize yourselves as artists, right? You're making content every day. But to an extent, you're all artists. Do you ever think of, it seems like you're all on board with the disclaimer type thing. Do you feel like that kind of filter or that kind of disclaimer would kind of take away from the art that you're trying to create?
But I mean, again, it's just an idea. And I hope not. Again, the difference between our world and the more traditional world has been that we're speaking as ourselves, right? We're representing ourselves. We're representing our name. I'm not acting in a role and representing something there and then feeling like I have to. It's me. And so I don't think it would affect most of the content that our community puts out because it's just a matter of, again, in my mind, knowing that it's time to be responsible for it and represent it. And I think that actually, if we start, if there's actually a movement that is created, I think it'll be appreciated by the majority of the viewers and fans and community, knowing like, here we go again, the awesome community that took charge and did the right thing. Like we are known as a community of people that are thoughtful and wanting to do the right thing. I think it would be a really awesome thing to see this movement happen, and again, feel great to be on this team internet.
I think it'll happen.
Thank you.
Hello.
Awesome panel. It's a really cool subject, and thank you for that. My question is, talking about influence and being influential, nonprofits that have been around for a long time and are very reputable are with time losing so much relevance because their fundraising methods and PR methods are just out of date, pretty much, and they're not keeping up with technology, and they're obviously not investing in it because it's so risky and it's new, and yeah. So they can't tap out to the younger generation. And do you feel like the average content creator would be interested in using their influence in doing good and raising awareness? I know you do like really cool stuff.
Well, it's interesting to me that that I feel like nonprofits are more accessible than they've ever been before because the internet is everywhere. If I can start my channel with no funds, no resources, no investments to like create a message, like this is like kind of like the best time for nonprofits to advertise for themselves because they have free billboards online, like Twitter's and blah, 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 blah. Like it's not as expensive as it once was. Like a nonprofit couldn't buy a commercial on TV, you know? So I think that that's kind of a good, exciting thing. But do influencers work with your question was, how do you think influencers would feel about working with nonprofits?
Yeah, like if they're interested in using their influence and doing good and raising awareness for charity.
I
think we all do in lots of different ways. I'm pretty sure every single person here and more that we know have done some sort of give back thing on our YouTube channels or through whatever audience we have. So, yes.
And just to add to that, just recently there was a really cool charity that I saw, and like in my community, just small, but they've been around 5 years, and I was like, I want to do something with them. And they couldn't do it on their own, so I went to them and I was like, I want to pair you guys, and I had a really good relationship with Ford, so I went to Ford and said, will you guys fund that? We'll use our audience. So all three of us worked together, and then we made 11 prosthetic legs for people in Guatemala. So I feel it's definitely out there, and I feel the more us as influencers realize the potential we have to do good, I feel the more it's going to just continue to increase. But I know there's a ton of YouTubers that are doing that. They'll see people that they believe in, and then they'll work with them and make bigger things happen.
Yeah, and that with GM and what was that guy? It's all the car companies.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I had a question. You guys were just talking about, I feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect in the language that goes around YouTube and influencers. Because I think there's a line when you become an influencer, and at that moment, you start making decisions differently from what is authentic to who you are. Like you're right now, you were just explaining to us, I'm going to this debate, whether should I put it or not. But at the same time, like we talk about being authentic and being yourself in it.
There's a big one. I hear you saying. Can I cut you off?
No, yeah, so my question was, how do we make sure that being good is something that's authentic as we should? Like you were just talking about Taylor Swift, she's getting a lot of backlash because of what she posted on social media about, oh, she's just posting it for media for being good, but is that authentic or not? Like how do we show that being good is also being responsible is also good, it's also cool, and it's also part of being authentic of who you are as an influencer and a creator?
I'm saying that is authenticity. I'm saying I'm sitting here, standing right now, saying, it's not saying at all. Right now saying, I personally, as you see, does believe that I was not representing my content correctly, and now I'm speaking up, and I'm wanting to make a change. That is exactly what that is being authentic. So whether or not I put up a music video and there's drinking involved in the past, and now that I know the section I actually feel, isn't it more authentic that I put my disclaimer up?
Yeah, no, that's my point. My whole point is put the disclaimer up, be authentic of what you're feeling, but then how do you make sure that that is cool and that is going to continue to be with the audience? Because that's part of the problem. Like you were saying, you did this charity event, but you didn't want to make a big deal, and that's something that's very common. I work with UNICEF, and we have a lot of celebrity ambassadors that do amazing things, but they don't put it out there because they're like, oh, it's not cool.
See?
I know. It's sad. Isn't it sad that we're trained to distrust people, like to distrust advertising, distrust everything so much because we've been lied to a lot, that you have a hesitation to share like, oh, I did this really good thing today, it makes me feel good, or oh, I did this thing. So I don't want people to think I did it because of that. I feel like you just got to move past that. Suspicious people will be suspicious.
That's a different I struggle with this. I mean, judgment is such a strong thing. I mean, and it puts you on a path that is not you, that is not authentic. And so that's the hardest thing is trying to understand how you're being affected by that and do you.
Here's my thought. Sometimes I go to the volunteer days, I don't tell anybody, and I don't post about it until like after, because I want to be like, I had a great day that day. So I think that that's your check-in. If you don't want to post about it, don't. If you do want to post about it, do. But don't worry about anybody else believing you or not.
My hope is that most of our community will authentically want to put up some sort of message or outlay or have a conversation and figure out how we outlay some of the ways we're representing negative things in life. That's my hope.
Well, we are running quickly out of time. This is obviously a really great start or continued conversations about this conversation that really making yourself conscious of the content that you put out there and then building it to content creators, industry, and even into community as you're here at VidCon. So thank you, Hannah and Chester, for coming up with this idea for this panel.